the UAE has requested to withdraw from OPEC. This news is shocking the entire world. No one really understands what's going on anymore. The question is, what will oil prices look like in the near future? What about the future of the global oil industry? Why did the UAE suddenly decide to leave OPEC like this? To answer these big questions, we should probably start with smaller ones. What is OPEC? Why was it created? What does it do? And what is OPEC Plus? How is it different from OPEC? Simply put, OPEC is an association of oil exporting countries working together. It consists of 12 members. The organization was created to ensure that oil exporting countries wouldn't be forced to sell at unfairly low prices. Think about it this way. If the UAE had to sell oil on its own, it would be very difficult. A buyer, like Europe, could easily pressure them. Europe might say, Saudi Arabia just offered me oil at $10, why are you selling it for $50? Just like that, the UAE would be stuck and have to go back and question Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia would then say, I didn't do that, Europe is bluffing. And this wouldn't just happen to the UAE. Any country selling alone would face the same pressure. That's why oil exporting countries came together to form OPEC. The group has one main goal: maximize profits for all members. Profit equals revenue minus cost. Each country handles its own production costs. OPEC focuses on revenue, which equals price times output. To optimize this, they control production. They can't allow members to produce excessively and flood the market that would crash prices. So, OPEC assigns production quotas to each country. For example, Saudi Arabia might produce 10 million barrels per day, Iraq 4 million, and the UAE 3 million. Total output is kept within limits, and no country is allowed to exceed its quota. Everything looked perfect on paper, but in reality, Russia's oil production was too large. Just Russia alone could flood the market and drive prices down, hurting everyone's revenue. At the same time, Russia's economy also heavily depends on oil, so it is affected by OPEC's actions. That's why OPEC Plus was created. In simple terms, OPEC Plus includes OPEC members plus Russia and a few smaller countries like Mexico or Malaysia, though they have less influence. Essentially, OPEC Plus is OPEC plus Russia, the two biggest players being Saudi Arabia and Russia. The group operates similarly to OPEC, assigning production quotas based on each country's capacity. Saudi Arabia and Russia produce the most. But when COVID-19 hit and demand dropped, they also had to cut production the most. The problem is that OPEC Plus lacks strict rules. No one can really enforce anything. Members constantly argue. Some countries claim they can't reduce production due to harsh climates. Others say they need revenue due to poverty or war. Some even propose letting others produce more temporarily and compensate later. It becomes very messy. Meanwhile, countries like the UAE have strong production capacity. They could produce up to 5 million barrels per day, but are limited to only 3 million under OPEC quotas. Increasing output isn't allowed because total production is fixed, and no country wants to give up its share. After thinking it through, the UAE decided to leave OPEC altogether to avoid these restrictions. They want full control over how much they produce and sell. Their reasoning is simple. The world is moving away from oil. Electric vehicles, solar energy, and nuclear power are becoming more common. Instead of competing over oil barrels, it's better to extract and sell oil now while it still has value than invest in other sectors. In 10 years, oil might not be as valuable anymore. The UAE believes the golden age of oil is ending not because we're running out of oil, but because technology is replacing it. Just like the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones, but because humans discovered metals like iron and copper, which were better. Similarly, oil may be replaced by cleaner and more efficient energy sources. Today, cars run on electricity instead of gasoline. Renewable energy is rapidly advancing. Of course, oil won't disappear completely. It's still needed for products like asphalt, plastics, and fertilizers. But fuel, gasoline and diesel, makes up about 80% of oil usage and generates the most profit. And this is exactly the segment facing the most competition. You can think of oil like a pig and refineries like slaughterhouses. The main goal is to get as much meat, fuel, as possible, because that's the most valuable part. Other byproducts, like asphalt or plastics, are secondary. As demand for fuel declines due to electric vehicles and environmental concerns, the core value of oil is under threat. The UAE understands this. They believe they cannot rely on oil forever and must transition quickly. But to transition, they need capital, and to get that, they must extract and sell as much oil as possible while prices are still high. To do that, they need to increase production, and to increase production, they must leave OPEC. In the end, the UAE no longer believes in the long-term future of oil. They want to shift toward tourism and financial services instead of relying on oil extraction.